Good morning. It's Tamara Hunter, and today is day number 301 of 365. Wow, I'm in the threes now. Can you believe it, guys? 65 days of awesome. Celebrate success through service. And yes, we have Michelle Fenyoe. And let's put it right side up. We have Megan. Sorry, Megan Fenyoe. Okay, yes, I'm overcoming my cold. I know, Megan. You know her very well. Okay, so we have Megan. Megan, so sorry. Okay, take two. Hello, it's Tamara Hunter, and today is day number 301. Yes, it's live, guys. Yeah, we're having fun. It's 301 of 365 days of awesome. Celebrate success for service. And today I am honored. Actually, I'm very, very honored to have my friend Megan Fenyoe on, the creator of the I Am Enough movement. Now, let me brag about this woman that I know and love. She is from the Southern California area, as I am. And so, yes, we run into each other a lot, and I always welcome that opportunity. She is actually creating a movement that matters. I am about movements. I'm about creating them for purpose-driven, heart-centered messages and missions that are going to help to make the world a better place. Megan has one of those. It is a story. There's a story attached, because there usually is. And she's going to be talking about that with us today. And I know you're going to be as impressed as I am. Yes, we started it with a few laughs because, get your tissues out, because you very well may end up with a few tears too, but there will be good tears. There's the kind that leave a mark on you, something that you can say, that was a good hour. That was a period of time that I really am glad that I spent it with these two women. So welcome, Megan.
Thank you so much, Tamara. It is 9 a.m. on a Saturday, and I know you don't feel well. And it's all about being authentic, right? And so we're human and we mess up. So it's totally fine. Totally fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. And yes, thank you for forgiving me on that, because, yes, it is all about being authentic. And in the end, it all ends up being perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was on a show before this one where we were talking about self-esteem versus self-confidence. And I thought about you a lot in regards to that show. And because that's an area that right now I'm raising funds for a nonprofit for something that I'm involved with. And I know that you're involved with something that that is amazing and wonderful, and we're going to get to. And when we were talking about this, I was co-hosting with Amy Morrison, and we were talking about self-esteem versus self-confidence. What are the differences? And I actually, before it had been brought up to me, I hadn't really thought about it, to be honest with you. I always kind of lumped them together. Mm-hmm. And we were bringing it up because many of our young girls these days, many of our young people are not necessarily always tapping into that. And it can cause a problem with us as we start going and becoming adults. Mm-hmm. And you have a story attached to what you're doing. But, let's do this. Let's start with the here and now, and then let's go back to the story. So what is it that you're wearing the shirt? I put up the card. And what is it? What is the I Am Enough movement?
Well, thank you so much. And I completely agree with kind of what you said about teenagers and even the tweens. And I'll go back to that. But basically the movement is, I wrote a best-selling book. And after a couple months that it was out, I was like, okay, what else can I do to give back? I was sharing my story all over the country, and I just had this feeling that I wanted to give back more. I've been a mental health therapist for 15 years, and I talk a lot about, with my clients and even friends and strangers too, about the importance of visual coping skills, because it doesn't matter who you are. We have all struggled with not being enough, whether it be in our career, health, relationships, whatever. And, you'll hear people say, oh, just, change that thought or just distract yourself. And again, like those things work, but sometimes we can't get out of our head enough to change that thought. And so the movement is a way to give back. And with the card, I know you were holding it up. On the back of the card, it says the word because, and then it has a few lines. And what I tell people is write down what it means for you to be enough. And for a lot of people, it's I'm enough because I got out of bed this morning, because they're not used to reframing and restructuring their, cognitive thoughts about being enough. And so sometimes I have to start with people just very small, like I'm enough because I got out of bed this morning. And then I tell people, carry this card with you wherever you go. I've got one in my car, I've got one on the table, anywhere that you are usually where you can grab them, carry them in your purse. And when you have those down moments, visual coping skills truly help distract your mind. And so you pick up the card and you read over and over again what you wrote on the card, because your mind is going to stop thinking about that negative thought and focus on what you wrote. And so it's very simple. People from all over the world have ordered these cards. They're absolutely free. I've sent cards to 23 states and 9 countries in the last, 5-6 months since the movement has launched. And, the other part is taking a selfie, because people are like, why do I have to take a selfie? And basically it's because I remember when I was going through, my traumatic marriage, which we'll talk about, I never felt like I was good enough. And when I jumped into entrepreneurship, people are like, oh, you have to do Facebook Lives, you have to do pictures of yourself and this and that. And I'm like, no, like I can't do that, right? And it wasn't until I started working on my own confidence, which I love that you had that show earlier about self-esteem and self-confidence, was I able to start doing selfies. And so the cool thing is I get selfies from all over the world of people just holding this card, smiling, and showing the world that they're enough. And then I post them on our Facebook page. Everyone that sends me the selfies, we have, oh, that's one of my best friends.
I love this one.
I've been friends with him for over 20 years. And I was in Michigan last weekend. And him and his wife and their kids, they've just been so amazing with the movement. But so people will send me selfies, and then you get your own day on Instagram. So it's been awesome. I've gone around the streets in San Diego, asking random strangers what it means for them to be enough. I've posted some of the videos, all of the videos are on my YouTube. So it's just been so phenomenal, the reactions and the support from this movement. And, there's no monetary gain for me for this. People order the cards absolutely free, but it's just truly about helping people believe that they're enough.
Well, I appreciate you putting that out there, that number one, how you came across this, and when you launched it. And so, am I doing the math right? It had not been launched too very long when we were together at the City Summit.
Yes, right? It just launched a month before the City Summit, or a couple weeks before the City Summit. So that is where I met you, because you got your picture taken with the card. And yeah, so kind of in the Southern California arena, and even in Michigan where I'm from, I'm kind of known as the I Am Enough girl, which is really cool. But yeah, that's kind of where the big launch happened, where I was just handing out cards and sharing, the movement with people.
It's a great movement, and I know many of my friends and our friends that have these cards, and they love them. Something so simple, and kind of like there's a picture of you, and so I grabbed my other one because I actually keep these right next to each other. Okay, so we have the keep smiling and I am enough, and I think I even got an image of you with both.
Yes, there is actually a story. There is a story behind that. So okay. I do have to give Ken, Roshan, and Andrea Adams-Miller some props, because I was at the Author Millionaire Summit. I got gifted a ticket by Ken, And that's kind of where I was just getting inspired about, okay, what can I do next? And Ken had these cards. So I'll never forget because Andrea was on my podcast. And when I launched this, I was so scared to see Ken and Andrea because I was like, oh, I don't want them to think that I stole their idea and this and that. And I ran into Ken at this event where this card was taken. And I had tears in my eyes, and he had tears in his eyes. And he goes, Megan, I would never think that. I'm so honored that the Keep Smiling movement inspired you to do a card, but you're taking it in a different level, at a different thing. Yes, you're doing the selfies and stuff, but your message is completely different. And so he's like, I'm just so inspired that you did it. And we both had tears in our eyes because he's like, I would never be mad. And again, that was the story that I was creating in my head that like, he's going to be mad because I like kind of took part of his idea. But it was really awesome because him and Andrea have been so supportive about the movement too.
They are the most supportive people.
They are. I love them.
I love them too. Shout out to Ken, shout out to Andrea. Two very, very amazing people. Two of the first people, I was at I think it's the first time I ever was a speaker at an event in Reno. I'd been asked to be, if you will, the heart and soul of the event because it was a business event and with speakers. And I had not met them. And they actually just immediately took me under their wing and have kept me there so safe and sound ever since, because they knew I was new. They knew it was, I'm not a typical like you. I'm a movement. I'm a nonprofit. Yeah. And I'm not there to speak to sell. I'm not there to gain anything. I'm there to build buddies. And they just took me in immediately and made me feel so loved and accepted. And whenever I'm anywhere, they'll introduce people to me. I mean, they are incredible. So I'm not surprised. In fact, my very first award that I ever gave for Service Heroes was an international award to Barry, the founder of the Keep Smiling movement, and did that nearly a year ago now. So we have many people here, but I want to highlight one that Helene Wilson, one of our chemo buddies for life. She has a very big day coming up on Monday, and we actually talked about it a lot on the last show, so I won't take much time, but the bottom line is that I told a story about how before she started one of her procedures, and she's given permission for for radiation, she was in a place that she wasn't feeling very self-confident, and now she has her last day on Monday where she'll be ringing the bell. So,
yay! Congratulations!
Here soon we will be ringing the bell on Monday for Helene, but it's a big deal when we can get through some of these big moments in our lives that are so scary and so they seem larger than life, and for many they remain larger than life. However, what your movement is all about is to help people to break it down in a way, and that's your training too. Now, your training, let's kind of go back a bit. I don't know the timetable as much as possibly I should. So I'm not sure, were you in the Air Force first? Or were you, okay, kind of bring us through, let's go through from the kind of, if you will, the beginning and bring us up to today. And I'll probably have questions, and I do have some images. So let's go.
Totally fine. It's kind of a crazy story. So I have a learning disability. I'm just going to start there because this is part of my story and my struggles. Is I have an 8th grade reading level and an 8th grade math level. And my guidance counselor in high school told me never to go to college. And so then that was kind of like where I started feeling like I wasn't enough. So long story short, I went through college. It was really tough, but I ended up getting my master's as a licensed mental health therapist. Thank you, in Michigan. And I worked in the mental health sector and had my own private practice for 10 years. And then since I was a teenager, it was always on my bucket list to live in California. And But once I got licensed in Michigan, for me to do that, I would have had to start my license all over again in California. And California is really difficult.
Yeah.
And I had such a hard time taking the licensing exams anyway. I was just like, this is never going to happen. So this opportunity, I've always had, this special place in my heart for military. And this opportunity fell in my lap. And I commissioned as an officer, as a captain in the Air Force when I was 33 years old. And
wow.
the
Really?
Lord, yes, I know, isn't that crazy? So the Lord blessed me, and I got stationed at Travis Air Force Base in Northern California. And so I picked up everything my whole life. I was 33 and moved to Northern California. And then I provided mental health and substance abuse treatment to active duty members there. And then I separated and started working at a hospital doing substance abuse, and then also got my California license. So I'm now licensed in Michigan and California. And then I'll get to the personal stuff, and we'll get to that in a second. But I ended up moving to San Diego, took a job transfer 2.5 years ago, and also started a network marketing business. And that's where I got my first feel for entrepreneurship. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I knew in the back of my head that I could do this because I could open my own practice. But again, that thought of not being good enough creeped in, because I'm like, oh, I don't have a second income. I don't have a spouse to like support me. Well, the Lord had a different plan for me, let me tell you, because a year and a half ago, actually it'd be 2 years in September, I lost my job at Kaiser. Whoops, I wasn't supposed to say that. But anyway, Kaiser. Okay. I'll say Kaiser. And I've been a therapist for 15 years at that point, a veteran. And it was because I posted a Facebook Live on Whole Food Nutrition after work, but it was in my office. But again, I take responsibility for that. But again, no place on my Facebook did it say where I worked. It was a blank wall, blah, blah. I have to take responsibility that I did it. I was devastated. I lost my 6-figure income, insurance, everything. And I could have gone back to get a 6-figure job, but I was like, okay, let me just start this. And was going through some traumatic stuff in my personal life, and started writing my book and opened my private practice. And thank the Lord, I have my medical insurance through the VA. And so for the last 2 years, I've been my own boss and wrote this book and see my patients. I also have coaching programs, and just been speaking, meeting you. So I literally have just jumped into this entrepreneurship world like a year and a half ago. So it's been a wild ride.
That is a wild ride. It makes me think of Mr. Toad's wild ride up the street, in Disneyland. Yeah. And I knew some of this about you, but I did not know all of it. Mm-hmm. And it makes absolute sense. And are you still involved in the network marketing?
I am. I do it behind the scenes because of, social media. I want my message to be clear of what it is, but I'm still definitely involved in it because, the things that I was doing literally changed my life. And that I talk about the business in my book, because if it wasn't for that, I never would have even considered being an entrepreneur.
So it was kind of like a stepping stone for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. That makes total sense. So as far as then your movement, you addressed, and I want to say thank you for addressing your learning situation. Mm-hmm. Many people know, because I talk about it, that I'm the mother of what can go right when you understand what someone's working with. And there is always a way to work within a challenge. I'm not going to say disability, a challenge. And we all have them. It doesn't matter. I have a few kids, and I've got some that are challenged that have absolute like genius, almost level abilities. However, it's their personality that challenges them. And then you have the other ones that may have an actual challenge because of something that might not be happening naturally, that others take for granted, that our bodies all are different.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be an actual physical issue that can challenge someone. And
Mm-hmm.
there is always a way to overcome the challenge if you're willing to look for that road, that path, that bump in the road could take you somewhere, that but there is always a way to refocus, and there is a solution. Do you in your practice work with people that had those kind, besides of course you when you were with the military, and then when you were with the larger medical group? I'm sure you didn't get always a choice. You were specialized, however, you possibly didn't get a choice of the patients that you would work with, your patient population. Do you choose your patients, and what kind of patients do you work with? Do you mind talking about that? Of course, no names.
Yeah, no, of course. So again, I actually am a contractor for like 15 hours a week at a chronic pain facility. And again, I never expected to fall in love with this type of population. I've lived with chronic pain since I was 17. I was in a horrific car accident. I wake up every day with chronic pain, and it's just something that I've accepted and dealt with. And as I've gotten older, my pain has gotten worse. And I think, again, it was, just being led to this job. And so I work at a chronic pain facility where we provide mental health treatment on top of, all of the medical stuff, because anyone that's going through a health issue, even this is why I love you, because of what you do with cancer and the heroes and all of that. It's truly about our mindset and what we think. Because if I woke up in the morning like I do with chronic pain, I mean, last night I was in pain and my roommate was watching me. I was like on a tennis ball and I was stretching and this and that. If I woke up every morning and said, it's going to be a horrible day, my pain is so bad, I would stay in bed, right? I acknowledge that it sucks and it hurts and I hate it and I wish I didn't have it, but it still doesn't help. It still doesn't keep me in bed. It's still, my life has had to change, like workout wise and everything. So I love that population because I can, relate to them. And
Mm-hmm.
I do work with a lot of patients that deal with depression and anxiety and things like that, but really the self-confidence. And because so many people don't realize that 99.9% of what happens in our life is what we think, because what we think outlines, affects our behaviors, our actions, what we do with our life. And so that for me is so inspiring and is life-changing. I've been a therapist for over 15 years. I have so many amazing stories of people that literally just do the work to change their mindset. And I'm very, as a therapist, we have to be very careful with self-disclosure. But I mean, I have a book out there that shares my whole story. So it's kind of like, well, there's not really much self-disclosure. I do use my book with a lot of patients too, because it has that step system. But I don't really pick and choose, clients. I think there's severe, mental health issues. I don't usually see them just because I'm in a private practice, and that kind of scares me a little bit, just not being able to them be able to walk in and see me if they need to, like if I was like in a hospital or something. But majority of the people that come to me are because of what they see online, the videos, the interviews, the movement. So the chronic pain patients I've been doing this for a little over a year, has been such a surprise and has been such rewarding work for me.
Well, thank you for that work. I know that those people that have been affected by chronic pain, and you know what, many of us have been, and and there's different ways of being able to deal with it. And I've known so many people that many of them end up on so much medicine, and they end up almost going down a rabbit hole within that world. And then there's the ones that can work through it with mindset and with yoga practice, or like you were talking about the tennis ball or the big foam rolly things. There's different ways of being able to deal with it, and to
Mm-hmm.
have someone that understands that. It doesn't sound like that's an accident at all. That you can be there to serve them
Mm-hmm.
with the fact that it's like in the buddies we talk about this, that and why we have two areas of the buddies, because from each chair the patient or the support person, they're going to understand it from their chair. They're
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily they're going to have empathy for each other, but they're not going to understand each other. So if they can have a buddy that understands them, then when they do have this interaction, it takes that friction away of, you don't understand me. Well, you don't understand me. Well, no, they're not ever going to. I'm sorry. That's just the
Right.
reality. They can empathize. They can try to, have the communication. However, to really come from the same chair.
It's
So that,
100% true. Yeah, and I'm just going to kind of reiterate,
yes,
being a
please.
being a substance abuse therapist, the number one treatment is group treatment, right? For people that want to go in recovery.
Right.
And even at the chronic pain facility where I work at, we started a group as well, because it's exactly like that. It's people don't understand if they don't live it. And there's so many times where we can feel alone because people don't get it.
Right.
And that's where you see so many changes and so many, positive things that happen with people when they're around a group of people. I have never taken pain medication, opiates, anything. I've been a substance abuse therapist. I know the addiction of that, so I deal with it through my mindset and different things I have to do. And again, it's just been nice, even though I'm a therapist, to be around my patients that also deal with it. Because I'm like, you guys, I'm struggling today. Like, I am in so much pain. But then I teach them what I do when I'm in pain to be able to focus as a therapist during the day, right? All these different types of skills, grounding skills, visual coping skills, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's group treatment, group support is so important with, honestly, pretty much anything you're going through in life.
Right, right, right. That isolation is what I mean in our population that I deal with cancer. And there was a study in 2017 out of the UK that actually said, which, a lot of medical doctors were like, whoa, they're getting into the touchy feeling stuff, because for so long they didn't necessarily go there. It was all, biology, it was all this. Well, then in the UK, they actually said if you are isolated going through chemotherapy, your
Yep.
chances of living 5 years or longer have been diminished. Boom. And when, and my doctor is the one that really was on me to start checking it out. He's like, there's something going on here between you and your original buddy. It is so needed. And to have the medical community finally get that, and that now they're understanding how community is so important. And so community equals building a movement so that you have your community. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what you're doing with the I Am Enough movement, is you are,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes sense with your training and everything. But let's dive in, if you don't mind. You mentioned it, however we haven't gone there yet. The big reason for a lot of this is because you personally have been through a lot, haven't you?
I have, excuse me. My book is called "You Are Enough: 5 Steps to Move from Struggle to Strength," and I've been through a lot of struggles. Starting in childhood, just growing up in a dysfunctional family, and then with my learning disability. And professionally, I've always been blessed. Don't ask me why, but I have. But personally, it's been a disaster. And so when I was 33 years old, like I said, I moved to California in 2012. It wasn't even on my brain that I was going to get married. I mean, I wanted to eventually. I've never wanted kids. So I wasn't in a hurry. But that was the last thing on my mind. And when I got to California, I was very lonely. I'm a very social person, very extroverted, but I had a hard time meeting people because where I lived was just kind of remote. And yeah, so I had a hard time meeting people. And I had met my now ex-husband while I was commissioning or getting ready to commission in the Air Force. He was also in the Air Force. And He was stationed in Texas at the time. So when I got stationed in California, we would start, he would come and fly and see me and blah, 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 all this stuff. Well, it progressed very, very quickly. And, there were so many red flags that I ignored. And I think it's because I felt so lonely, which was the first time, honestly, in my life. Like, I've been lonely before, but I've worked through it, and I've had, amazing friendships and things where I just never felt so lonely in my life. So it progressed very quickly. He told me he loved me the first weekend that he came to California. He would fly out every 2 weeks to see me. We got engaged. We started dating in November. We got engaged the following February, and we were married in October. So like 11 months. And he ended up moving up to Northern California. He retired from the Air Force. And the minute he moved, everything changed. And I started catching him in lies. And then he kicked me out of our house 6 months after we got married. I was in transition of the Air Force to Kaiser. And so I was out of work for 8 months working on my license. I had no money. He had, I was basically broke and started racking up all this debt. Then he asked for me back 8 weeks later. I moved back in. Then again, he kicked me out. And then I found out that he had an affair for 14 months of our 2.5-year marriage. So at that time, I didn't realize until a year and a half ago that I was in a very narcissistic, abusive marriage. And how I found that out was, so he divorced me in 2016. He filed for divorce 4 times and pulled the papers. So he just kind of kept me on the string for 2.5 years. And I was so traumatized at that time. I would be in between seeing patients on the floor crying. I had no idea what was going on in my life. I had no family. I had very little friends out in California. And so that's when I started my network marketing business, because I was looking for this community. And so instead of taking care of my mental health, I was working 40 hours a week, started my network marketing business, and then opened my private practice. And even as a therapist, I just was so like not with it. And so then I started getting this nudging feeling like I was meant to do something more. And I thought it was the network marketing business, but it wasn't. So he divorced me in 2016, but we date. Again, I was so traumatized that I remained faithful and committed to him for 2 years after our divorce. And I had never returned to our house, never saw my dogs again, but we would continue to date. I finally made the decision to move to San Diego. And I'll never forget the day that I moved, he sat there and cried. And he was like, please don't leave. I'm going to show you that I made the biggest mistake of my life. We can work on this. And I was like, no, it's already happening. So I moved down here, and as crazy as it sounds, kind of the abuse got worse. He was like my drug. I was so addicted to him. And it was like my life was like quicksand. Like I would be like falling, right? And then because he would like kind of just ghost me. And then all of a sudden he'd be in San Diego, or he'd be calling me, and then I'd be like out of the quicksand, right? And so he came down here February of 2018, so a year and a half ago. And he's like, I have a job interview, and if I get it, I'm going to move down to San Diego and show you that I made the biggest mistake of my life. And we're going to start over. Do you still have your ring? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yes. So we came down here, and I remember praying right before I picked him up from the airport. And I said, Lord, if this isn't enough for me to leave, or if this is not what's supposed to happen, you need to show me, because the affair wasn't enough for me to leave, the divorce, all of this stuff. If you show me, I will walk away. Tamara, I kid you not, 24 hours later, we were sitting in my house, and I found out that he had been with another girl for the last 2 years. He actually moved her into our home a month before our divorce was final, and had been living in our home for 2 years. Remember how I said I never went back to the house?
Right.
I did not even know this woman existed.
Ouch.
So February 15, 2018 was the last time I talked to him. I had already lost my job at Kaiser. I was like, what am I doing with my life? Because the job loss and walking away from my ex happened within 4 months of each other. So I got my butt back into therapy and really started working on myself. And that's when I started writing my book. And so my book is my saving grace. It shares my story, but it also talks about this 5-step system. And this 5-step system is the steps that I actually went through while writing the book. So it's not something that I just came up with and I was like, oh, okay, like this works. I actually did it during my trauma. And what I wanted the book to be is, really a self-help book for people, but where people can actually start working on themselves. So at the end of each chapter, I pose a question with places to journal so that people can start working on moving from their struggles into their strength and believing that they're enough. Because, this is a huge thing that I love to tell people is that it's what we call cognitive, or it's what we call reality testing as therapists. Like when you find yourself saying you're not enough, you have to look at the source that's telling you that. Mm-hmm. So my ex-husband never told me I wasn't enough, but I created that story in my head based on his behaviors, his actions, the way he treated me, right? So my closure, I was never going to get closure from him. He's just him, right?
Right.
I didn't realize that I was in this narcissistic abusive marriage until I started writing my book, honestly. And I remember I wrote this chapter called Mr. N, and I was writing it and doing research, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my life. And so part of my closure was not finding closure from him because I was never going to get it, but finding closure of the person I became when I was with him.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I created this story in my head that made me believe that I wasn't enough, and it was affecting every single part of my life. And once I was able to do that, to release that trauma of who I made myself become, my entire world changed. The book came out, became a best-selling author the last year and a half. I've spoken on a ton of stages, was on the Jenny McCarthy show, just on your show, meeting amazing people. And it's literally, sometimes I pinch myself because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's only been 2 years, but where would I have been if I didn't have the strength? Of course, I was terrified to walk away from him.
Oh, I bet.
But I would still be stuck. And so that's my story. I still struggle with being enough at times, just because I'm known as I am enough girl. I'm not sitting here saying that I don't struggle. I do. And I pull out this card or I'll tell my roommate, my roommate, Jacqueline.
Oh, I love, yes.
She's actually in her bedroom right now. Cause I was like, I'm going to be on Tamara's show. And
tell her I just love her.
I will, but I'll be like, I don't feel like enough today. And we'll talk it out, or she'll be like, read your book, Megan. But it's being authentic and honest that we still struggle with it every day. And if my story can help someone start that journey of believing that they're enough, then everything that I've gone through in the last 6 years with him has been absolutely worth it.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, I know a lot of people with movements because it just is ending up that I'm kind of becoming the movement person, right? And so, and people come to me and they're talking to me, and the thing I'm finding is that really there is a pain point in each person. And I go back to history, and I've been doing a lot of studying because it's like, I almost feel like, okay, anytime that you're given something that it seems so huge, there's a reason for it. And most will say it's a download. It's a whatever their belief system is. It might be that it came from there. It might be that I have a message to share because I don't want anybody else to go through it. But whatever it is, it's not that, oh, I woke up and I want to be the leader of a movement. I haven't found one yet. Not at least one that sincerely is out there, willing to do what it takes, because it's not easy. So then you start doing the studying. Okay, what has made anybody successful in creating a movement?
Mhm.
I did a course one time. It's a private course somewhere, but it was a really good studying situation. And I made myself go back to people that didn't have the internet to create a movement. And how did they do it? And who were they? Aristotle. You never necessarily would think of someone from way back in the day. um, you can go back to, of course, you think of Martin Luther King, you think of some of the others, but what about the ones that our founding fathers? There's some that were there that, they really, and did they ever choose to go out there and make that kind of difference? No. Would they also possibly say, and many have said it, you know what? And some that many of us believe in quite honestly is like, hey, if I don't have to do this, can someone, can I be excused? Because it's not easy. However, when you finally get to that, there's something that happens, that fire in the belly, that I'm going to do this and I'm going to stand firm in that. I don't know what it's going to look like, and it's probably going to be really hard. And you start reading again, because
Mhm.
I love history. Why reinvent? But you start reading, and each one had their moments in crisis when they'd made that decision. And then it wasn't necessarily an easy road. However, you think about it now, what did they do to change the world? Oh, a heck of a lot. And so now, having the internet, having social media, having the opportunity to get our message out there and being stewards of a message and being stewards with integrity of a message, you can actually go out and create a movement. And
Mhm.
I just want to say thank you for sharing all of that and leading us to what I want to now talk about, which is a really big thing, is that you have been recognized by the Easy Way family of broadcasting companies and Eric Zuley of the Easy Way, that he has nominated you, they have nominated you as online superhero for the Online Superhero Award. That is huge. And I wanted to paint the picture. I know I went on and on, but I was painting it for a reason, because I took a day yesterday because of my voice. And I've been doing studying of those that have created movements for good. And some of those have created movements, but it wasn't necessarily for good.
Mhm.
And and how do you learn from both? Because you need to be aware, where did it go? Maybe they didn't start that way, but then it ended up happening, and where did it happen? And online, that's why I wanted to really touch this. Online has an element that you can very easily shift. You can very easily have something go wrong. We see it all the time. Even like this morning, maybe it was meant to be and it was perfect that the show started like this,
Mhm.
because it really brings to effort and to light, that to have a movement and to say, okay, I am enough. I am willing to go out there and create these cards. I'm willing to put my name out there and to do it online. That's a huge deal. And you're doing it with, you have your Blonde Bombshell podcast, you have the online movement, you're out there speaking on stages. However, you're all over the place. Plus, you're also like the guardian of the red carpet lately.
Oh goodness. We are not going to get into all of that.
Okay, well, I have a picture
That's
from you.
interesting, but I have to be honest with you. And I'm gonna have to like take 2 seconds to plug in my computer because it's gonna die. I'm so sorry. I wasn't thinking.
No, we're good. Okay, I can do song and dance when you do that. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
but so it's so funny because I actually got an award like a year ago for social media, and I'm gonna. This is me being authentic. Where I struggle with being enough is because I think at times that I'm horrible with social media. To be honest, there's times where I wish it was back in the day where we didn't have social media, because there's so many times where I'm going through social media and I'm like, why didn't I say that? Like I struggle with verbiage. And so my roommate and I laugh because I got nominated for this online superhero award again. And I'm like, this is where I struggle the most is I don't feel like I put enough content out there. Sometimes I feel like I'm promoting the movement too much, or I'm talking too much about myself, or, and I'm very honored for this nomination. Honestly, like I love Eric and I love what he does. And, there's so many of people that I know that are getting nominated and all of this stuff. And the event is going to be incredible, but it's just so funny. And I think that that's a story again that I'm telling myself, because this is the second time I'm being nominated for a social media award. And so I have to get over that, right? Like I have to have that self-confidence that I know what I'm doing.
Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, oh, I wish I had loaded some of the things from the last show onto this one, because it was like, okay, I could have used that right this minute to bring up, because, and go ahead and plug in your computer.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem.
This is all about being authentic on live, right? Like I didn't plan
that. Yeah, and I love it because, and when you're doing streaming media, you have to be willing to punt, because there's always fun stuff happening.
Right. I'll be right back.
No worries. We're good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take her down from there, and I'm going to share a little bit about that, what she just said, because if you guys didn't hear what I just heard, I would like to be able to point out the fact that we've got someone that a lot of people look up to. I mean, she is definitely, you've heard, her education, her military experience, overcoming the things she's overcome. And then that we are often the hardest on ourselves when others see something and we're like, oh, I don't know if I should be honored for that. I don't know if I really deserve that. However, I want to submit, and we'll talk to her in a moment, that many times it's that person that might not think that truly is the person that should receive the award, because oftentimes we ourselves are so hard on ourselves because we expect to give so much that we are giving so much more than the average bear, if you will. And yet what do some people do? They'll look to see what they haven't done rather than what they've done. So I'm really thrilled that Eric of the Easy Way Network and his committee chose Megan for her movement to be recognized. Let's bring her back up to the line. I think she's ready. I don't know if you heard what I was saying, but I was giving you some kudos, because you know what? You need to be, and I'm only sharing because I go there a lot myself. I think anybody that feels that they, a stewardship, let's put it that way, a stewardship over a movement, over a community. If you don't look at it continually, see and go back to the mat, if you will. Okay, what am I doing right? What am I not doing correct? Or what can I improve upon? Is my community being well served? If not, why not? What can I do about it? Okay, so these are questions that anybody that's worth any kind of salt that is trying to help others are going to ask themselves. And then on top of it, to be recognized, like I just received an award not long ago. I went to Vegas from Soul Central Magazine for Unsung Hero. And I was like, I was really deeply touched. And there was a snafu of which my name didn't get called because there was a whole box of the awards that had been misplaced or missing. And so I didn't get called, and I thought, okay, that's all right. I had the nomination. And then later, I was made aware of the fact that, oh no, they were felt so horrible. No, you actually won the award, and we want you to recognize that in yourself. And I thought, wow, that even it brought it that much deeper into me in like unsung hero. And I actually was thinking like you, I'm thinking I'm out there all the time. How unsung am I? But, but I'm not in any way, I'm trying to highlight others that are doing heroes things. And so to have that honor given and be recognized, sometimes we have to be okay with it in our own skin. And I'm sharing this and so that you can be okay with it in your own skin, because where I sit and seeing what you're doing, and think about it, you put the effort into putting these cards together. You've thought about your program, and you are out there doing lives. You are out there sharing. I mean, you do get an opportunity, and you are invited to. You've been all over the world with your message.
I have, and thank you so much for that, because, this is what I love about being an entrepreneur. Just a side note is, you know, as women, women can be a little bit difficult at times, right? I think a lot of times women compete with each other. And that was one of the things that I was really worried about getting into this entrepreneurship world. But honestly, like, the women that I have met, including you, have been so supportive about everything that I've done. And, I love that I can be and honest with you and say, like, I'm really honored to have this award, but this is what I struggle with. And it's just amazing. And yes, the movement has reached 9 countries. I mean, I sent cards to Egypt. I have a whole list of the countries I've sent cards to organically, not because I know people in the countries or the states. People have literally just gone to the website, ordered their free cards. And for me, like, that is huge. I don't hear from a lot of people because I've sent over probably 1,000 cards to people. And so if anyone's out there watching and you have the cards, like, I want to hear from people. I want to hear how it's working. I do email people, people that have gotten the cards. But one of my biggest goals is I want to reach all 50 states by the end of September.
Wow.
So I have a list of the states that I need. And again, I don't want to just mail cards to people there that I know. I want to have it be organic, right? And so I'm doing something right, I guess, and I can acknowledge that.
Yes,
I'm actually going to be starting kind of like your show, but it's going to be called I Am Enough TV. And so I'll be having guests and stuff come on Facebook as well, and just going to kind of see how that goes. But again, a year and a half ago, I was not comfortable on social media at all. And this has been a learning curve. And again, reminding myself that I am enough. It doesn't matter what I say on Facebook. It doesn't matter if the beginning gets screwed up, or, the internet connection isn't good, or if I look like a mess that day. So it's been a huge learning curve, but again, something that I'm learning to be proud of. And so this nomination really is helping me, build even more self-confidence.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that, especially since today that is a thought in my mind, self-esteem and self-confidence, and that we all need to be aware of it. So thank you for sharing that. How can people vote for you?
So I know the voting, there's a link, and I can post the link in the comments. The voting ends on Tuesday, and the event is is August 30th. So I can post the link because it's kind of long. I will post the link in the comments. It's really exciting, and I would love the votes. I am also giving away, anyone that places a vote and messages me, I am sending people my 365-day affirmation workbook for free. It's a $27 value. So if your viewers, once we post the link, if they do go and vote for me, please send me a message or comment on the show notes here, and I will send you the free affirmation journal.
Nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's really good to get behind people that are out there making a difference, guys. I've been out there really tooting a horn because and I want to say thank you to Easy Way and Eric Sully, because I know that he had nominated me for an award, and it just so happened that it was at the same time as I had already been involved in the Next Impactor, so I had to respectfully decline being able to be there and a part of this. However, I really truly appreciated it because it means a lot to me, and to be you having this honor of the nomination, it's huge, and it means that someone's out there making a difference, that someone's out there, and I love it. Online Superhero Award, I love the title. That is a great title. Good job.
Thank you. I'm excited. I'm very
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah. So as we start to wrap up our time together, what is it? I found one event that's coming up in your future, but what are the next events that you have coming up that you can share? What, and so that if people want to go and meet you and be able to have that selfie and get a picture with you and just because there's that bonding that takes place when you can actually see someone face to face. What do you have coming up?
So lots of fun things. The award dinner again in August. And then I teamed up with a few people. Tamara, I think you know Danielle Rocco.
Oh, I love Danny. I
Yes,
love her.
she's amazing. So
I
me
love her.
and then three other women, we are holding a military event. We're all affiliated with the military somehow. And so we're having a huge military event at Camp Pendleton on September 22nd. And it's for active duty and veteran women, but that's for in person. But then we're also going to be doing a virtual. So for those of you who aren't military that want to join, you can do that virtually. And then I'll be in Indianapolis speaking in November. Bunch of stuff.
November the 9th?
Yes, November the 9th. Yes. So I'm really excited because Indianapolis is close to my family, and so I go home every 3 months to see my mom. So that's good. It's going to be an amazing event. So if you're in the Indianapolis area or close by, let me know. I am going to be doing another open photo shoot for the I Am Enough movement. I just haven't set the date. So people can come. It'll be in San Diego somewhere.
Oh, fun. Maybe I'll drive down the street to you too.
Yes,
that would be fun. Maybe I can do a little live while
oh my gosh, we should totally plan it. It would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun.
I did one a couple months ago. And so people, because the cards are free, people can come and just get their photos taken with the card, meet me, hang out. It's usually about 2 or 3 hours, just very laid back. So definitely going to get that started too. So lots of events pop up at the last minute. I'm not holding any myself except for the one in September, but lots of stuff going on. A lot of interviews and exciting stuff along the way. And, I am going to be launching I Am Enough TV. And if there's anyone out there, Tamara, of course, I'm going to have you on the show, but anyone out there that wants to kind of do what you and I just did today about talking about your struggles and what it means for you to be enough. I would love, please reach out to me and would love to have you on my show. So
wonderful. Well, as we start to close this up, let's also make sure that you put a link in for people to know how to get a hold of your book. Because I'm sure there's going to be many that are saying, yes, I would like one of these cards. However, that book sounds like it's pretty incredible, and I could really use the opportunity to, at the end of each chapter, do the work, the self-reflection, and be able to find the better self so that their self-esteem and self-confidence can grow. I'm sure that there's many that are thinking that way. So if you don't mind.
I will definitely put the link up. The cool thing too is I just had my audiobook come out and I did the whole book myself. So you can also get the audiobook, but I'll put the links on for that. That was us at the
Yeah. Well, we were actually talking about the audio because that's why I brought that up, because I think you had just done it or you were close to doing it or something. And that was at I think that was at Kiss the Monkeys, right?
Yep, the Beverly Hills Mall.
Beverly Hills. That was a nice warm day, wasn't it?
That was so warm. I think I told your audience when you interviewed me that like you could see the sweat marks on my red dress.
Well, I'll tell you this, because Mikey usually goes with me. We usually do a lot of this together, right? Because I do video and he does the pictures. In fact, I was thinking he's going to say, yeah, why didn't you tell me that I'll go down there to San Diego too? So I'm getting an invite for Mikey too. I'm sure he'll want to be there. However, he's like, Tamara, this is what he said to me, because you were really sweating. I'm like, I wasn't the only one sweating. He goes, yeah, but I'm the one that had to do the most fixing of your sweating face. And I'm like, seriously? Oh my goodness, thank you so much, my dear Mikey.
It was ridiculous.
Authentic,
It was ridiculous. Like, seriously, with a red dress, like you saw it was all wet. And then on the back, my whole back was wet. But again, it's all about being authentic and real. Like, guess what? I'm
Yeah,
a sweater.
yeah,
That's what
yeah.
happens.
Right.
Um,
And you were working so hard because you become kind of like, I told someone, I'm like, she comes from the military. She has every right to be, kind of like, because you had to actually play a little bit of the back cop, a
I
couple of
did.
the events, and
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 that's
and you actually
hard.
came up to me, and I felt so sorry. I'm like, I'm good, and you're like, I felt so bad. I'm like, no, it's all right. I understand. Things have to,
Yeah.
have rules, but
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And I forget sometimes, I kind of take over with that. And then I forget that, I'm a speaker and an author and I need to be networking, but I love Al and Raquel. And so I always jump in and try to help them because it can be really overwhelming. And so, but like my roommate's really good at when she comes to events with me, like, Megan, stop, go network. You're a speaker, you're like everyone else that's a guest here. So, but yeah, so it's hard. I think I'm going to be taking a step back from that and just, because I'm a helper, so I like to just jump in and help because that's just who I am. But I think I need to kind of take a step back from that. But yeah, so thank you for interviewing me on the red carpet, even though I was sweaty.
Oh yeah, I didn't mind you. You were even like, you don't mind touching my back?
I know I said that in the interview. I was like, I really can't believe you're touching my back right now.
I know, and I'm like, hey, if anybody touches mine, they're gonna be feeling the same thing because it was like I had to go up and down that hill a couple times because I had forgotten my mic,
Oh
and it was
God,
like, and it was one of the hottest, most muggy days we've
it
had in
was.
this area.
It
And it
was.
was all outside, guys. So any of the red carpet things, and that's what's cool too, is to say it is so amazing to have these opportunities
Mhm.
and appreciate what you see because you never know exactly what's going on. It may look one way, however, that confidence and self-esteem and self-confidence goes one and then the second will help someone that's having a situation like we were going through. It's like, okay, these are the facts. This is what I'm dealing with. But, we're going to do the job at hand. And that is, we're going to share how amazing the event was, which it was truly amazing.
It was. It was
It
awesome.
was amazing. And so a few things, like hearing from my dear Mikey that he had to fix the face is like, okay, that's okay. It's all right. We got it. We did it. We had fun. And we
Yeah.
were able to share with those that were not able to be there, primarily, the shut-ins like our buddies and such, that there is a reason for them to keep going every day because life is happening and it's so amazing and wonderful. And it's just like going back to what it is that you're doing with your movement. Nothing's perfect in this
Mhm.
world. And that's okay because you know what? You're not saying I am perfect. You're not saying I am wonderful. You're not saying, oh yeah, look at me, I'm a bag of chips. You're saying I am enough, and then embrace it, and
And
I
I
like
always like to say, like, I am enough, and one of the mission statements for the Blonde Bombshell podcast is unapologetically owning who you are. You're enough, and you don't have to apologize to anyone for who you are, what you show, what you do, because for me, I am, and that's all that matters.
I love it. Is there any parting nugget that you would like to share with everybody?
Well, yes, definitely. I do want to give a little plug in. The link that I will give the viewers goes to my website. You can order the book. You can order your free cards. You get 5 free cards. And then I just launched the shirts.
Uh-oh.
And on the front, it says, I am enough, as you can see. And on the back, it says, join the movement. And so those are available as well on the website. They're selling like crazy and super excited about that. So a lot of people are getting the cards and the shirt and then sending their selfies. So it's cool. But it's basically, I wrote this quote and it's in my book, and I share this, at the end of every interview when I speak as well. And so my little nugget is always to remember that you are enough just as you are, regardless of whatever season you're in. And the more you celebrate and focus on that, the more you will live in your strength.
Oh, I love it. Perfect. It's perfect. That is just absolutely perfect. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for that. As we close today's Service Hero Show, and you are now officially day number 301 of 365 Days of Awesome, celebrate success through service. You are truly a service hero, Megan, for all that you are doing and bringing us through your story, because I know that there are many that have heard it just now and will hear it in the future, and if be able to say, you know what, I am enough, and I can celebrate that. And I know that because Megan shared it with me. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so very much for spending time with us today. Everybody, go out there and make it a great day. And don't forget to check back and get all these links to all the amazing stuff that Megan has just talked about. Vote for her, find out more about her movement. And you know what? We're not going to put down what states she's still looking for.
Right.
We are actually we have very dedicated viewers from all over the world. So go wherever you are and put in your information to get those cards, and so that that goal can take place this year.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tamara. You're truly an inspiration. I love you dearly. Thank you for supporting me in the movement and for inspiring and changing so many lives.
Thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. I do. I love you too, Megan. Have a great day, everyone. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.